Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. I'm Shamila Pula and here's what we have in the bulletin. Poll shows Jamaicans still support term limits for politicians. Concerns over unsanitary meat sales at Grange Hill Market. And later in sports, Reggae Boys to battle Guatemala in CONCACAF Gold Cup opener tonight. Now the details. Jamaicans are still of the view that politicians should be given a term limit once they hold office. This was contained in the findings of a recent poll conducted by pollster Don Anderson. Mr. Anderson shared the results in an interview on the morning agenda on Power 106 on Monday. It's a view long held among Jamaicans that members of parliament, councillors and the Prime Minister should have term limits once they take office. Chairman and CEO at Market Research Services Limited, Don Anderson, says a poll conducted between May 16 and June 7, 2025 confirmed the view still stands. 1,033 people were interviewed. The poll has a margin of error of plus or minus a few percentage points.
And that's overarching the principal finding from this particular question. As you indicated earlier, more than 3/4 of the persons interviewed, which is a very large and very strong support for this view, felt that members of parliament, 76% felt that members of parliament and councillors should serve term limits, and 78% felt that the Prime Minister should serve a term limit as well. This is consistent with a poll that we did in 2023, which had almost roughly the same numbers.
Mr. Anderson says more findings will be revealed in the coming days. He noted that the poll analyzed responses based on gender, age groups, and voting intentions. This included whether respondents supported the PNP, GLP, or had no political affiliation.
63% thereabout who said they would support the Jamaican Labour Party feel that there should be term limits, as against close to 80% amongst the People's National Party intended supporters. So it cuts across party lines for sure, and it's being supported by persons right across the demographic spectrum in terms of age groups as well, and by gender. So when you have a number as high as 77%, you can expect that when you break it down by age cohorts and by gender, that there will be support, the majority.
Mr. Anderson says he wasn't surprised. He says the results are consistent with previous findings and were expected.
This goes against the grain of an announcement made during the party campaign, and of course when politicians get into a campaign mode, they say all kinds of things. This is one of the things that was promised by the current Prime Minister Andrew Holness when he was preparing for the elections in 2016, whenever it was. All right. So it's interesting to note that it's a very strongly held view by the general public, right across party lines and across age groups and gender.
Meanwhile, political commentator Damian Gordon explains that there are several reasons why Jamaicans support term limits for politicians. He believes this stems from a general distrust of politicians, no matter which party they belong to.
There's a lack of transparency in terms of, what elected officials do, in terms of how they spend monies allocated to them for their respective constituencies, also in terms of how they raise funds and what they do with these funds during campaign season. We have a lack of performance-based criteria for the elevation of persons to public office. We have weak oversight mechanisms generally, and we have a large partisan political culture, which reduces the capacity of many voters to really make informed voting choices. Overall, you find that we struggle in terms of being able to limit the use of power by elected officials. And to a great extent, our democracy empowers holders of elected office, and this empowers citizens. Our democracy provides fertile grounds for elected officials to use power in a corrupt and self-serving way.
The Jamaica Labour Party has launched a blistering attack on the opposition People's National Party over its handling of crime while in government. At a constituency conference last night, the GLP accused the PNP of having no track record, no plan, and no credibility when it comes to keeping Jamaicans safe. O'Shane Masters reports.
The Jamaica Labour Party is taking direct aim at the opposition, declaring that the People's National Party has no credibility when it comes to fighting crime. Speaking at the St. Andrew East Central Constituency Conference on Sunday night, Government Senator Apka Fitzhenley accused the PNP of failing time and again to deliver results on national security. He argued that while murders and major crimes are now on the decline, the PNP cannot claim any part of the success.
So when you hear that man who murders under his watch increased by 6%, try to talk down the investment and the hard work of the government of the Jamaica Labour Party, I want you to run him away and make him understand that the people of Jamaica are not fools.
The senator pointed to the latest crime data, which shows murders down 44% compared to the similar period last year. A drop, he says, is due to the government's targeted strategies, expanded police operations, and investment in the security forces. Meanwhile, Manchester Central MP Rhoda Moy Crawford told supporters the next election will be a critical moment, a chance for voters to make clear what kind of leadership they want on national issues like crime and development. The first-time MP also made a bold call for political accountability, urging voters to remove underperforming MPs regardless of party.
We are not to get comfortable in this country to the point that you have MPs and because they're in safe constituencies, they don't have to do no work, and it is almost guaranteed that they will go back to Garden House. And you have some of us who have to work very hard to get back to Garden House. We have to get to the place where the political parties, even in strong constituencies that are safe havens, if we don't have a member of parliament who is not performing, make the party remove them.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Newly elected president of the Youth Caucus of the People's National Party PNP Patriots, Paul Burke, has taken a jab at Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's handling of the country. Speaking at a party meeting in St. Mary over the weekend, Mr. Blake accused the Prime Minister of failing the country.
This is a government that promised prosperity and they delivered pain. They came to power on the box of hope and turned that hope into hardship. They promised comrades transparency, but they have covered up corruptions in committees and PR. They have made scandal normal and silence strategic and arrogance acceptable.
He argues that the Andrew Holness-led government has manipulated public trust.
They have disrespected educators, they have disarmed the poor, they have destroyed the faith in governance and dare to call it progress. Where is the prosperity when farmers can't get water and teachers are underpaid? Where is the growth when the cost of living is choking working families and whole communities are being left behind? But the answer I have is that time come.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie is criticizing the poor management of the Grange Hill Market in Westmoreland. Mr. McKenzie toured the facility recently and expressed disappointment with its current condition. Disgraceful. That's how vendors describe conditions at the Grange Hill Market in Westmoreland.
Look at it. It's a disgrace, man. I guarantee you my place could never look like this. And this is for the government. They have a slaughterhouse where I do my butchering and stuff. And if one hole in the mesh, they're not going to give me a license. And look at this, look at the condition.
The sellers have the problem of the leaking roof from the storm. In fact, before the storm it is leaking. They're unable to walk down the aisles. They're unable to sell their produce in certain areas. So most of the sellers actually go outside and put a patera pole in, because when it does rain, you could say the market is virtually you're not able to access it and walk through.
Fed up and frustrated, the vendors say the market's rundown state is driving customers away.
Right now, both sides of the government are talking about community practices. Then make this a hub. Granger is a hub for Negril, Savlamar, Hanover and Clarendon. The market is a hub. When I first came here, the market was up and running. There were stalls in here. People were selling in here. I had family selling their farm produce in here.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie agrees. He ordered his permanent secretary to get a detailed report from the CEO of the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation as pressure mounts for urgent action.
Over many years has been administered by the municipal corporation. I'm going to wait until I get the report. And whatever steps has to be taken, we are prepared to take those steps. Markets were not built to be leased out to private individuals. It is one of the core functions of local government to provide markets. It is a responsibility that we have.
Meanwhile, concerns are growing about meat being sold in unsanitary conditions in a section of the Grange Hill Market in Westmoreland. Chief Public Health Inspector for the parish, Steve Morris, while acknowledging the concerns, noted that the butcher is still operating within the health department standards.
We do have one butcher who sells in the market, but this butcher also has his own meat shop. So what he does is that he will take some of the meat that he slaughter and go to the market for, just to sell some of it there. But he will basically use his own meat shop. And we have recorded that. We see that there are some issues with the meat markets particularly. And it's not the ideal situation, but basically we ensure that it meets minimum public health standards, which is what we have to ensure.
But local government minister Desmond McKenzie has taken a firm stance on the matter. He says no one should be selling meat under such conditions, calling for urgent intervention.
When you look at the condition of the butcher house where the butchers have to ply their trade selling meat, you ask the question, what is the public health department of the municipality doing? Because that is in contravention of every facet of the public health regulation as it speaks to how the meat house is to be secured in order that the meat that is sold to the public is done in a proper, secure and safe manner. That is not being done.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. It's now time for the Business Minute.
India's Pharma is reporting a dip in second quarter earnings, but slight improvements over the first half of the financial year. For the 3 months ending April 30, the company earned $270 million in revenue, a 10% drop compared to last year. Net profit also fell by 9%, closing the quarter at $65.5 million. But for the 6-month period, net profit rose by just over 3% to $137.8 million. The company's total assets now stand at $2.46 billion, while liabilities increased sharply by 21%. Further afield, bond investors are backing away from long-term U.S. Treasuries as they expect the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates unchanged this week and see less chance of aggressive rate cuts due to a lower risk of recession. The Fed is widely expected to leave its key interest rate between 4.25% and 4.50% when it wraps up its meeting on Wednesday, as it navigates uncertainty around Trump's trade policies, which could still push inflation higher later this year. However, recent weak inflation data from May has raised hopes that the Fed may start cutting rates again soon. For the Business Minute, I'm Shane Masters.
Thank you, O'Shane. We take another break. Sports is next.